Who are you missing, Dan?
There it goes. Moore.
Here.
O'Kane. Shaner. Scott.
Here.
Waters.
Here.
Can we stand for a moment of silent prayer followed by the Pledge of
I didn't see
Allegiance,
you.
please?
Okay.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Jennifer McCabe. Come up too. We have a proclamation that reads, whereas brain injury is a serious public health epidemic affecting at least 13.5 million Americans. And whereas an estimated 2.5 million children and adults in the U.S. will sustain a traumatic brain injury, and another 3.5 individuals sustain an acquired brain injury from non-traumatic causes each year, and currently more than 6 million children and adults in the U.S. live with a lifelong disability as a result of traumatic brain injury. Whereas many of our soldiers have reported symptoms related to concussion, brain injury, including slowed thinking, memory loss, sleep disturbance, attention and concentration deficits, and brain injury, which is the leading cause of disability among soldiers returning to their communities. Whereas a concussion is also a serious brain injury that can occur without loss of consciousness, and it can occur in any sport, and recognition and proper management of concussions when they first occur can help prevent further injury or even death, and as many as 3.8 million sports and recreation-related concussions occur in the United States each year. Now therefore, I, Robert E. Scott, Mayor of the City of Sioux City, Iowa, on behalf of the City Council, do hereby proclaim March 2024 as National Brain Injury Awareness Month in Sioux City, and encourage all citizens to help enhance the public awareness of traumatic brain injury, and salute the mission of the Brain Injury Association of Iowa. We'd like to present this to you and say a few words.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mayor, council members. You know, Opportunities Unlimited has proudly been supporting the Siouxland community for a little over 30 years now. And we're really proud of our mission, which is maximizing personal potential through dignified and purposeful living. And we feel like we really make a difference to our community and those whom we serve. You know, as a nonprofit organization, we certainly do rely on the support from many, but we feel like one of the things that OU does really well is that we try to make a difference and give back to the community also in a number of different ways and various community programs that we have. As person-served staff and advocates of OU, we certainly want to bring awareness to National Brain Injury Awareness Month. And as a member of the Brain Injury Alliance of Iowa, make sure we're making a noticeable impact in our local community. As was shared, brain injury is a leading cause of death and disability in children and young adults. And there's a lot of statistics, and unfortunately, it's just one of those things, no matter what we do to try to prevent and educate, you know, it's something that is a constant need. And with the advancements in medical services, people are surviving and thriving with their brain injuries. Opportunities Unlimited is one of the few ACBIS sites in America, and by that is we have over 20% of our workforce who have completed the rigorous training and testing to be certified brain injury specialists. We have over 35 who have this designation. We actually have 2 in our employ who are certified trainers. One of our community programs that we absolutely love is called Got a Brain, Get a Helmet. That's also kicking off this month, and that is a brain injury awareness and prevention program where we have our own curriculum that we share with second grade students across Siouxland. And we've typically given a few helmets away with a limited budget that we have. We were really thrilled a few years ago to find a community partner. And once again, we have a partner that's going to allow us to distribute helmets to all second graders here in the Sioux City School District. And that partner is Vern Eide. So last year, we were able to give over 1,600 helmets away to second grade students. We're proud to also partner with the Sioux City Police Department with a program called You've Been Ticketed. That is a program that runs throughout the summer, roughly Memorial Day to Labor Day. And our Sioux City policemen and trailblazers, along with other community supporters, when they notice kids wearing helmets while riding their bikes or scooters, they'll stop and give them a ticket, which can be turned into Dairy Queen for a free ice cream treat. So
There you go.
it's really a neat way to get that positive promotion with our police department, and again, just positively promote those good habits of kids. This week and last week, we've had a number of members from our team participate in state brain injury conferences, both in Coralville, Iowa, and in Kearney, Nebraska. So we're constantly trying to invest in the education and stay on top of trends as it relates to brain injury. OU provides a number of services, both in a residential and community-based setting. We have 7 homes that are licensed as ICF, and now we have 2 which are licensed as CNRS. We're one of just 5 organizations in the state of Iowa with this level of brain injury rehab in a residential setting. We know that every brain injury is different. There's an often repeated adage among the brain injury community that says, if you've seen one brain injury, you've seen one brain injury. This year, we're taking part of the National Brain Injury Association in their program called My Brain Injury Journey. This campaign seeks to highlight the uniqueness while also pointing out the very personal and long-term nature of brain injury. Brain injury is a journey, and the destination is unknown. So I encourage you to check out our social media as we start sharing some of those personal journeys of those whom we serve. But again, thank you for your support and for having me here today.
Thank you. We
Thanks,
appreciate
Jennifer.
all you do. I remember quite a while ago, there was a young attorney named Dan Moore and Bill Stoneberg and Norm Clay that came to see me about having this in Sioux City, and you have been a great addition to the community. Thanks you for everything you do.
And Dan joined us earlier today. We had a little celebration, and we like to celebrate with cake a lot at OU. And so Dan came and said some, kind words again in showing support of OU and brain injury awareness.
I'm sure he
Month.
picked up a couple of those free ice creams too, knowing Dan, so
Yeah, great time. Thank you.
Thanks.
Is Willie Delfs here? I don't see Willie. Okay, we'll go on to the consent agenda, items 3 through 11E. Is a consent agenda today. You can consider these items to pass unanimously unless a separate roll call vote's asked for. You can come up on any of these items. When you come up, be sure and state your name and address for the record. If you want to come up on an item not on the agenda, please come up under citizen concerns. I'll move the agenda.
Second?
3 is a reading of the March 4th City Council minutes. 4 is a resolution authorizing a request for release of funds in an environmental review and assessment regarding the Home Investment Partnership American Rescue Plan related to the Asher Apartments project. 5 is go ahead.
I need to abstain on that item, conflict of interest.
We have to defer.
Sorry, Nicole, I forgot to mention that to you.
Move we defer the item for 1
Second.
week.
Moore,
Abstain?
Scott,
Aye.
Waters.
Aye.
Aye.
It's still majority, isn't it? Or do I need,
Yeah.
You can recalculate it for that purpose, but to vote on it, that should be free.
I'll vote yes then to,
Like to change your vote?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll note it.
okay, thank you.
5 is a resolution accepting State Housing Trust Fund grant agreement between the City of Sioux City Trust Fund and the Iowa Finance Authority. Same thing, isn't it? They have to do with the same thing?
What's that?
Number 5.
That grant.
Are you referring to Amy Kern's Neighborhood Services? Do you mean, does this have to do with the Asher apartment
Yeah.
project?
Yes.
No, this is separate. The State Housing Trust Fund is something that we get every couple of years.
Okay.
And we use it as part of our rehab program and our Remain program, so like the elderly and disabled repair program, barrier removal program, and programs like that. So, okay.
Thank you.
Oh, it automatically defers anyway, okay.
Oh, it does?
If we take a vote roll call, it'll automatically defer if one of us has a conflict of interest.
So we're good on number 5.
Yes.
Yes, will be.
6 is a resolution awarding a purchase order to Arms Unlimited for 85 suppressors for the police department. 7 are actions relating to agreements and contracts. A is a resolution approving a renewal option to the service provider agreement with Richard Hansen for maintenance and garbage control at various city rights-of-way locations. B is a resolution authorizing a release and a satisfaction of resolution and funding agreement, rental deed restriction, and HUD amendment to restrictive covenants with Hickory Lane Partners for the Shire Apartments. C is a resolution approving a contract to Subservco for the Buckwalter Drive Storm Sewer Outfall Repair Project, and I have to abstain on that conflict of interest, so it'll automatically defer.
Yes. Yep, go ahead and.
Okay, okay.
Okay. Moore,
Aye.
Scott,
Abstain.
Waters.
Aye.
D is a resolution approving a contract to Concrete Plus for the fire station parking lot repair project. E is a resolution rescinding number 2024-0113 and approving amendment to number 2 to the development of minimum assessment agreements with MG88, Cold Storage, and Cold Link Logistics. 8 are actions relating to personnel. Resolution amending the salary schedule for professional, administrative, technical, supervisory, executive, and council appointed employees to temporarily reassign the pay range for the finance and utility director. B is a resolution amending the statement of authorized personnel complement by deleting one airport mechanic position in the Public Works Department and adding an airport mechanic in the airport department. 9 are actions relating to payments. A is a resolution approving the payment to I-State Truck Centers for repair to a bus 1380. B is a resolution approving a partial settlement and claim and authorizing payment. C is a resolution approving payment to Thompson Solutions for emergency repairs to the central maintenance garage and field services. I didn't think we'd have this problem. Did this job have a bond? Does anybody know? I'm guessing it did. It's over 40.
Teresa Fitch, Finance Director. I am unaware. Stan is the one that managed the project. It was an emergency repair, so I'm not sure.
I have not seen if there was one, I do not see it in the documentation.
Well, you better call the roll, just, I don't want
Moore,
For what? I'm confused.
Yeah, what do we,
to. Well, I've got a, if there's a bond, I got a conflict.
Oh, you're not sure if there was a bond?
I'm not sure.
in the materials that have been provided, I don't see that there is a bond. Generally, if it's over $25,000, there would be a bond.
That's what I'm thinking.
So I would recommend
That's fine, we can defer, yeah.
action for 1 week. Scott,
Abstain, conflict of interest.
Waters.
Aye.
10 are applications for cigarette, tobacco, nicotine, and vapor permits. 11 are boards, commission, and committee minutes. Any question on any of those items? Anyone want to be heard? Call the roll, please.
Moore,
aye?
Waters,
Aye.
Scott.
Aye. 12 is a hearing and resolution approving plans and spec for the manhole rehabilitation project. I'll move that.
Second?
Public hearing's now open. Anyone to be heard? Seeing none, the hearing is closed.
Scott,
Aye.
Waters,
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
13 is a hearing and resolution approving plans and specs for the sewer cleaning project. I'll move that.
Second?
Hearing's now open. Anyone to be heard? Seeing none, the hearing is closed.
Waters,
Aye.
Moore,
Aye.
Scott.
Aye. 14 is a hearing and resolution approving plans and specs for the city facilities asphalt overlay project. I'll move that.
Second?
Anyone to be heard? Hearing's now open. Seeing none, the hearing is closed.
Moore,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Waters.
Aye.
15 is a resolution awarding a purchase order to Bob Brown Chevrolet for one Chevrolet Silverado four-wheel drive cab truck. We still have to move it to amend it.
Yeah.
I'll move that.
Second.
To
I'll make
amend
a-
to Woodhouse or?
I'll make a motion to amend that we award the purchase order to Jensen Inc. in Lamar's, Iowa.
Well, no, you'd want to do Woodhouse, Ford, Chrysler.
Bid it out of Blair, though, is the problem, because they don't have Ford here.
But what in the memo it said is since they have a dealership here in town,
Okay.
Oh,
it
they
needs to
did?
be under
Oh,
the
they did?
two. Yeah. Or at least that's what the
No,
memo.
two,
That would be the same for Jensen also.
Because they're in Lamar's, you're right.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, but
Oh, gotcha.
they're both out of town,
yeah,
so I think you got to move Woodhouse.
okay.
'Cause it's-
I'll correct it then and move that we award the purchase order to Woodhouse Ford Chrysler out of Blair, Nebraska.
Second.
Moore,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Waters.
Aye.
Okay. Presentation of the construction, wait, yeah,
To vote.
construction manager at risk. You have to go move the camera now.
We're going to fill some.
Oh, we got to vote on the.
Yes.
Now on the motion, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Scott,
Aye.
Waters,
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
You have to go do your camera thing now?
Yes.
It'll take a little bit for,
I can get it up here, at least for the moment.
Oh, okay.
I would do council concerns while we're waiting, but these guys.
Wrong one, guys.
Paid a lot
Sorry.
by the hour, so with you two, I don't want to run up the bill.
Go too long?
There it goes.
Do you have anything you'd like to say? Now's the time.
Yeah, no doubt.
Tom
Well,
Tingle, Utilities Director.
We have to wait till
She got to get the camera, so,
we get the cameras.
go ahead, she said.
okay.
Oh,
Well, good afternoon, Council and Mayor. Today we'll be presenting the Construction Manager at Risk project delivery method for the wastewater treatment plant improvements project, Phase 1. During this presentation, feel free to stop it at any time and ask questions. Then next Monday, we'll be asking you guys to make a decision on this process delivery method or not. So between that time and now, feel free to reach out to me with any other additional questions so we can get those answered. So I'll just kick it off here. Got Will and Gary from Hazen. They'll be presenting. So like I said, feel free to ask any questions. Thank you.
Name and address, fellas.
Gary Hobner, Hazen and Sawyer. I'm the project director for the wastewater plant improvement project.
I'm Will Martin, also with Hazen and Sawyer. I'm the project manager for the wastewater treatment plants improvement project.
So, as Tom mentioned, we're here today to give you an overview of the potential project delivery methods for construction for the wastewater treatment plant improvements project. So the alternatives that are available to you here in Iowa really boil down to two main delivery methods. First, design, bid, build, which is the traditional delivery method. And second, which is fairly new here in Iowa, is construction manager at risk, also known as CMAR. So what is CMAR? That's what we're going to be presenting a little bit tonight, talking about the pros and cons of this delivery method. Whenever we look at the best way to deliver a project, we look at the specifics of that particular project. We look at the owner, and basically your drivers for moving ahead with the project. So we're going to talk through that tonight. We'll also talk through the CMAR process and the potential next steps. As Tom said, we're just here today to present this information. we can field questions throughout the presentation. We've only got about 9 slides, so it'll go fairly quickly, or you can wait until the end after we've presented the material. And then, after today, again, questions can be routed through Tom, but we can be available to help answer anything you have moving forward.
Thanks, Gary. Like I said earlier, my name is Will Martin. I'm the project manager with Hazen and Sawyer for the city. So like Gary said, there's really 2 delivery methods that are available for the city on this project. The one that the city has a lot of experience with is the design bid build process. This has been used by cities, municipalities for infrastructure projects for decades at this point. I'll go through the specific process on the next slide, but again, this is a very standardized design, advertisement, and bidding process. The key feature here is that the city really is typically locked into the low bid under the design bid build process, the lowest responsible bidder. So you have very little control over what you get in terms of a contractor. It's very cost-based, and the other feature here is that the contractor is really only involved in the project at the time of bidding. They have no involvement throughout the design process. So the first time they're seeing the project is when those bid documents are publicized and advertised. CMAR, which we're going to talk about, it's been legal in the state of Iowa for almost 2 years now for public projects. It's been used elsewhere. Iowa's a little bit later in the game in terms of that, but it's got about 20 years of track record of successful use in other states at this point. One of the key features is that you're bringing this construction management firm on during design. You're getting their services during design, pre-construction is what we call it. And you're able to select them on a best value basis, so you can consider cost along other factors and get the right fit for the city to act as the construction manager and then subsequently as the contractor as well. And they're able to look at the design as it's progressing and provide input on matters of constructability, matters of cost, sequencing. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But this is a high-level overview of how the design bid build process works. It's something that the city has seen numerous times. What we're showing here is basically like a timeline graphic. The blue bar there, that's us as engineers working on the design. The orange part there, that's when the contractor gets involved. But basically, the city has already selected the engineer for this project. We're working through the design. Under this process, we are going to start reaching out to contractors as that bid date gets close, basically to notify people that this project is coming and try to solicit interest in the project to ensure that there's bidders. The city sees the first hard and fast bid cost numbers at the time of bidding here. And then what you ultimately pay is that plus change orders, right? So you get a bid cost at the time of advertisement. That can change if unknown conditions are encountered, and the city has seen that on projects both at the treatment plant and elsewhere, that if there's discrepancies, anything that's unknown at the time of bidding, that the city sees extra costs that aren't anticipated at that point. This again is a similar graphic for how the CMAR process would work. Again, the same kind of color scheme. You have blue for where the engineer is working, orange for when the construction manager or CMAR firm is involved in the process. A couple key features here that I will explain is that the typical selection for a CMAR firm happens kind of early to midway through design. They're involved from the point of selection and entering into a contract with the city throughout the duration of design. They're reviewing the work as it's done. They're providing input on their thoughts on ways that make this easier for them to build, ways that they can help the city save money. So they're involved throughout the duration of design. And then they're going through a similar bid phase towards the end of design. They are soliciting bid packages from subcontractors in a way that's dictated by the state regulations. And they ultimately, between the 90 and 100% design milestones, they develop what's called the guaranteed maximum price for the city. So they would give you, as the owner, the cost for that project at the guaranteed maximum price or GMP stage. And then from there, if that GMP is acceptable to the city, they proceed with the construction phase of the project. A couple things that I would highlight here just to help explain this process to you as well. So you're actually signing a contract with the CMAR firm at that selection point. And you're signing an agreement initially just for their pre-construction services. So it's defined what they're looking at in terms of the design, how many meetings they sit in, what type of feedback they give. But you are paying just for their services up to that GMP. From there, the typical process is that that contract is amended to cover construction and includes the GMP and proceeds from there. But you as the owner are not mandated to accept that GMP, so there is what's called an off-ramp. So if, for whatever reason, the construction management firm selected is not giving a number that's suitable, you still have the design documents that the city owns. That contract, that project would then be publicly bid the exact same way that would happen for design, bid, build. So that's generally the way that the process works. Gary, anything that I? Nope. Okay. These are generally what we've seen as pros and cons for CMAR in comparison to design, bid, build on other projects. Basically what's shown here, green is good, orange or yellow is moderate, and red is a kind of a drawback of the particular methodology. What we've seen, a big reason that owners look at CMAR is that you do have that best value control over your selection. You can define the criteria that are important to you. So that's been a big reason we've seen other cities pursue this as a delivery method. Another one that's been increasingly important is that the contracting community has shown more interest in CMAR projects as it's gained more and more acceptance across the community. And so you're able to have a little bit more guarantee in the bidding community for your project through this selection process.
Why is that?
Gary, you can speak to what you've seen elsewhere.
Yeah, I think particularly on larger projects, we're seeing a lot of the national contractors have more of a preference in CMAR. I think a lot of it is just because it is a collaborative process. So as opposed to just the contractor getting handed a set of plans and specs to, which they have to provide a bid on, and, there's really not a lot of room for interacting. This way they can be involved during design. Again, it is collaborative. So it just generally makes the construction process go smoother in a typical way. So for a project like this, and we'll talk a little bit more on future slides, proposing to do phase one as one large contract gives the city an economy of scale, which means you're going to have larger, more national contractors focused on bidding this project in order to achieve that economy of scale. And you're just frankly likely to get a lot more bids, better bids, by going the CMAR route. We feel like in this particular project, as we said at the beginning, we try to look at each project and the particulars of it. So but we think that CMAR is likely going to be the most attractive way to go for the wastewater treatment plant project.
Well, and I guess I appreciate that. My question was probably just, as far as the construction community, I think I understand with your answer, you were talking more just on a national scale because of the size of a project. I just didn't know if you also meant with the subs or different local presence or stuff like that, local.
Yeah, and we'll touch on that a little bit. Will's got a slide on that, but the thing about this project too is if it goes CMAR, and really either way, but particularly CMAR, they're going to be pulling in local and regional contractors to work on some of these particular bid packages. Just because of the size of the project, it's just more economical to use, local labor forces, when they can, because that's always the big challenge when the large national contractors come in.
You hard dollar bid it, you're planning on bidding it as one big project?
Phase one.
Right.
Yeah.
300 million or whatever.
I think
270 was the last construction cost estimate we had during the planning phase. Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure I'm for or against anything, but for a guy to bond a $270 million job, I know a little bit about that, they've got to be a pretty darn good contractor. Whether you hard dollar it or whether you construction management, you're not going to get somebody that the quality of the work
It's taking a shot in the dark.
to take, yeah, I mean, you may get one guy that'll bid outside of his scope and territory, but I don't think there's any difference in the first line. I really don't, just because of you got to have a lot of, not only money, but I have a lot of expertise to bond a $270 million job. There are, as we've talked, there are very few contractors that can handle this. There are people that can handle 270, but they might not ever have done a sewer plant before, so.
I think, Mr. Mayor, I think it also, assuming, we do proceed with it as one project, the contractors who are going to be interested in it, I think our point is that there's more of a trend for those contractors to focus more on collaborative delivery projects.
Well, they still
than,
a lot of
than,
yeah. Like I said, I don't have a feeling one way or another, but.
I just had that question. Go ahead.
Yeah, no problem. So I think we touched on a few of these. Certainly the collaborative approach, Gary, you talked about that. That's a benefit to the city to look at, look more closely at constructability during design. Generally, we would say that, the lower upfront cost is associated with design bid build, but that's usually mitigated by the risk of change orders that the city sees from the design bid build process. So, all told, there are very few projects, or that is to say, there are no projects that ever go the same. You don't ever see the same project do design bid build and CMAR, but, including change orders, I think our view is that it usually ends up to be cost neutral. There's opportunities for schedule optimization. Again, that contractor's at the table earlier and can talk about ways that the project could be accelerated on their end. But this is a newer process in the state of Iowa. We've been working with IDNR to look through some of the ins and outs with them and ensure that they're ready to use this process for the funding mechanism that the city has established. But that being said, it's still new, and it's still new to the state at this scale, so that is, a potential drawback for the city. So, some more specifics on CMAR. Let me see if there's any in here that we haven't touched on a lot. So certainly the risk of change orders is a big selling point of CMAR, right? The contractor has seen this project in a lot more detail under the CMAR method. If there are particular risk elements that they're concerned about, they're able to bring those up. We're able to develop a mitigation strategy and do more investigation during design, as opposed to that coming up during construction. Again, they have a look at constructability of the project. They have a look at schedule, cost. You are getting real cost dollars earlier under this process. You have a little bit more cost certainty by the time you get to the GMP. I mentioned you have an off-ramp, right? The GMP, if you're not getting an acceptable bid from your selected CMAR, you have other options here. So a couple of the drawbacks, right? You get a proposal for pre-construction services during the selection process that I'll talk about in a minute. You're not actually seeing their construction cost until the end of the design work at the GMP. The next point is pretty far into the weeds on the contract that you end up signing with the CMAR, but it can depend. If the CMAR brings value engineering ideas to the table, the contract may dictate that they get to keep a piece of those savings, but that is very much a contractual issue that the city has control over until that's actually in place. They do have a fee for the pre-construction services part of the process. So they're getting paid for their work, but that's usually a trade-off with the risk reduction that the city sees in terms of fewer change orders. A little bit about specifics on the phase 1 project at the treatment plant, because that's what's under consideration here. I show this, just to kind of refresh everybody's memory on the amount and scope of work that's proposed. This is mostly working around existing facilities. It is impacting a lot of the way that the plant has to operate while the contractor is doing these improvements. And it's working in facilities that range from 10, 15 years to 50 years old. So What that means, I'll talk a little bit about specifics, but wanted to be a little bit more specific on the project itself here. Again, we talked about the contractor pool that is a potential benefit of CMAR. I don't think we need to belabor that point. One of the big ones, again, when we looked at that slide, there's a lot happening at the plant. And we're working around a lot of existing infrastructure. We know from plant staff and from our work at the site that there's some information on the record drawings that's misplaced or not accurate. CMAR is definitely a way to get a better insight into that. And we'll have we would have a CMAR firm on board to advise on areas that they want to look at, subsurface conditions they would want to investigate, that type of thing. Also during the several years of construction, this plant has to run successfully. You guys don't get a break in your permit for this construction process. You have to continue to meet your permit limits, and that requires a lot of good interface with the plant staff. Having a CMAR firm involved, they can be a part of those discussions early, develop relationships with the city staff, do better planning on outages, plan out how to work successfully around the plant while it's operating. Gary said before, we would expect an economy of scale here, right? A combination of a national contractor, but also the local labor pool. And we have had a handful of meetings with IDNR already to talk about this process. They've had some good questions that we've been able to answer on what other states do. It does seem favorable that they'll be able to use this option with the city if that's the route that you take. I would also say that we've been working with the Design Advisory Committee that the city established, I think since November of last year was our first meeting. January 4th, we gave a similar presentation to the committee to give them information about this. I think Tom asked them to make a recommendation as to whether this should be considered by council as an option for the phase 1 improvements. And they did pass that resolution, so this is coming to council from the Design Advisory Committee as something to be considered for the project. The last points I'll leave you with is just a little bit more information about how this process actually works and what the state requires in terms of getting a CMAR on board, if this is the path that the city chooses to pursue. So it's really a two-step process. So there's first an RFQ to get qualifications that goes out publicly to the community. Those are evaluated, and then an RFP is issued to shortlisted CMAR firms. Those are evaluated and ranked based on your predetermined selection criteria. And then from there, you would enter negotiations for the pre-construction services with the selected firm. I mentioned before, typically this is around like the 30% design milestone. Based on our design work, that's kind of early summer this year that we would want to try to target. We can certainly work with any schedule that's out there, but generally best value comes from having them involved a little bit earlier. So like I said, that would kind of be early summer time frame to take advantage of that feedback they can provide. So with that's what we had prepared, but certainly happy to answer any questions that council members or the mayor may have.
This job have ARPA funds, Tom? I think I know why, which always irritates me, but that way you don't have to pay Davis-Bacon wages.
Oh, we do, this is SRF funded, so it's Davis-Bacon wages.
Yeah, but state Davis-Bacon, is that
Correct.
the same? It's not the federal registry wages.
Are they pretty similar? It is state Davis-Bacon wages, yep.
Is it close, Mike? No, we got it.
Michael Washburn, McClure, 613 Pearl Street. It is state Davis-Bacon wages.
Right, that's not.
Is that close to federal?
That is not Davis-Bacon wages, my friend. Davis-Bacon wages are federal wages set by the federal registry. There are a lot different wages. I'd like to see a list.
Sure, we can provide so the state gives us, it's by county, so there's different counties that we have to.
Or the federal ones, but.
Yeah.
Anyway, I know they can't be the same. We're not exactly in a government that cares about people earning a livable wage.
So we're just following the regulations though currently of SRF. I mean, I probably agree with the mayor as far as what the labor force should be paid. I understand your point, Mayor, but we're following to the best we can as far as the stipulations for SRF funding for the project.
And you check this, they have to be checked weekly?
Yes, so during construction, the contractor has to submit it has to be biweekly payroll records that we check to make sure the people on site.
You're going to do on-site inspections and ask the guy, what are you doing today?
We have before, yes.
I'm not asking you what you have done. Are you going to do that? It's important to me. On $275 million, I want the best product and I want the best labor you can get. And I want to make sure the people are performing a job, they should be paid for that job. It's important to me because it happens all the time on these big jobs that they put them out in a different classification just to make it cheaper for them. And I don't want that to happen. I think it's important that we play by the rules because there are fines if you don't. So I don't want to hear what you've done in the past. I want to make sure that we are going to inspect this job on a regular basis.
Yeah, I believe that is part of the contract with the city, that there will be someone on site during construction, and the person that would be on site would be qualified to do these types of wage interviews, and we have done them before. And then we have to review the paperwork every 2 weeks to make sure, so.
I know how it works. I've submitted the paperwork.
I think the mayor is just saying, and I would agree, that we've had large-scale projects in the community before where then you have people that try to bring it to their attention that, hey, this isn't savory practices of what's happening, and that there are different measures being taken to cut costs, and this is a large enough project that we don't want that risk. We want to make sure that the quality of work is being done and that those people are being paid for the job they're there to do, and that it's not being shortchanged, whether that's the hours or the title or the role that they're playing. I mean, yeah, I would just agree with the mayor that we want to just hold those contractors accountable. I would hope that local labor is really important, and that we would utilize the labor force that we have here. I think we have great men and women that can do a lot of great things in this community, but I think holding them accountable to that is something we need to expect to do, especially if it's a large construction firm that's not necessarily done work here before.
Right, yeah, and as Michael alluded, that, construction administration, inspection, any compliance with SRF is already part of our contract, so, yeah.
What's the closest sewer plant you've done to Sioux City?
Are you asking about Hazen and Sawyer?
Yeah, Hazen. What's your closest one?
Probably, well, we've done work in Denver, we've done work in the Twin Cities.
But were those hard dollar bids or were they construction management?
We've done a variety of different ways. We've done a lot of hard bid projects. We've done a lot of CMAR projects. We've got a list of a table with projects that we've done via CMAR. We can provide.
I'd like to know your 5 closest to Sioux City,
okay,
and how you bid them, and who the contractors were.
We can provide that.
I would say too, I wanted to mention, just for the rest of council, that Julie did message me and apologized. She didn't know she would be absent today, and was sad to be missing this presentation because as one of the members of the design committee, she just wanted to pass along that the committee overall emphatically supported the CMAR process, just from a standpoint of, which makes sense to me. Obviously, we've never done this before, but in thinking through it, if it's something that staff is confident we can work towards, I think it could be advantageous because I think sometimes in larger projects you have a lot of change orders, and this allows individuals, especially the contractors and construction folks, to be a part of that and look through the design of them, where you're running lines, where you're building the buildings, how it's going to work and coordinate together so you can be on the front end rather than be handed a set of plans and just be told to build this. You know, they might creatively think of solutions that would highly reduce your cost, which I think is something with this project that I'm going to be most interested in, is working with those different companies and firms to reduce that cost as much as we can and make it as efficient as possible. Because I think, as you know, you all have been a part of numerous discussions in this room where we've talked about the overall cost and how that's going to affect business and community members here in Sioux City. And we need to be conscious of that. And it would be my hope, as it sounds like emphatically it was the hope of the design committee, that we could go this route with the hope that it would reduce the overall cost of the project through the assistance of it throughout rather than at the end and just implementation of. So that's why I'm open to this process. I mean, having had conversations with Tom now about it and just trying to educate myself, it makes sense. I think anytime you do something new, it can be a little, I don't know, you should cautiously go into it. You know, I don't want to say it's scary because it's not necessarily that, but I think that you need to be prepared and educated and be able to navigate that. And so perhaps, you know, putting the mayor at ease with your familiarity and, you know, what you've been able to do with different jobs and things like that, maybe that will help. But I understand on a project this scale, I'm hopeful that it would pass along some savings to the taxpayers here in Sioux City.
This is not unlike, it's not exactly the same, but it's not like a guaranteed maximum price design build. It's not terribly different than that. The only difference is you work for the contractor under that scenario. And this building is an example of that. State law did away with that ability to do it, but this building was that. The convention center was that, and I'm not so sure that Tyson didn't have some kind of a segment of that. So it's not like it's new territory we're comping on here, although it's a little bit different because the construction manager has become vogue. My good friend Bill Bradbury, he can tell me that he had his whole life that designing and trying to sell those jobs, and it just happened to be he was the engineer and the contractor at the same thing, but it's not like it's new territory. I just want to make sure that we're not pre-picking a contractor and that we're picking the contractor that makes the best presentation with the most financial ability to complete this job. Contractors go broke on $300 million jobs. I don't care how good you are. This construction industry is littered with those kind of jobs, and I want to make sure that we don't have that situation. I'm sure you're going to put a bond up on. I'm sure the bonding company will come in, but we all know how that works. I've only had one loss in my life, and they drag their feet and wait until the very last minute until they have to get threatened to go to court to pay, and we don't need that on a $300 million job.
Mayor, I think it's a good point, and you know, we can, when we provide you with the information you requested, it'll also show that I'm speculating that any contractor that's going to have an interest in this job, and there will be numerous contractors interested. We already know that. We're already hearing from them. We've worked with just about all of them, and so we'll be able to show that, you know, these are contractors that know how to deliver. So we do have experience with them, you know, and again, you know, obviously with our team with McClure, you know, we have experience with a lot of the local and regional contractors as well. So a lot of those folks, you know, it will be up to the contracting community to figure out, you know, how they want to put their teams together and which subcontractors will be pre-qualified. But I think it's going to, a job of this size will be a nice mix, and we will be able to demonstrate and show you experience with just about all these contractors.
I have a couple of comments to make. I sit on the Design Review Advisory Committee as well. And just for the record, so you all know, I know you four know very well, but the members from council that are on the advisory committee, as well as the city manager, abstained from any votes. But I encouraged a motion and a vote on this, and it was enthusiastically endorsed by the committee. this advisory committee is working really well together, and they have a lot of great ideas, and we're moving forward. I must tell you, they were not shy, and we have a committee member here today, and I hope you feel free to speak.
The East High guys show up for everything.
Okay, yeah, yeah. I hope you speak up at this meeting today. But they did not shy away from the fact that it was a newer law in the state of Iowa. They didn't back off from that. They know we can work with it, and they have a lot of confidence in Hazen and Sawyer and McClure to do the right thing on this. But I wanted to point that out about the abstentions, because we think it's more appropriate for the council members to actually wait for a motion to come or for a recommendation to come from the advisory committee and then vote on it accordingly at council. So
Maybe you should have done that on the jail, but I'll let that go.
It was bring it to the council first. It was too late. It was way too late. But the advisory committee is just working really well, and I'm just really pleased with the committee members that have been named to that committee, and it's going well. So thank you for all that you've been doing to make this project successful. And we all want to watch, of course. We want to get the best price we can, but we also want to get the most responsible contractor on the job. And you've got the experience with many of them. I think Tom provided us with a list of general contractors that have worked on projects similar to this. So I think we're moving in the right direction. It's very positive, and hope to remain positive about it.
Well, Mr. Moore, I'll say too, we appreciate the input we're getting from the Design Advisory Committee. It's been some very valuable input, so definitely incorporating it into the work that we're doing into the design, so it's appreciated.
Well, it's a two-way street, and you've been good listeners, and you've been open-minded to comments that have been made, and I've enjoyed serving on that committee. So we'll just keep it up. Do the committee members want to add anything, or committee members that actually? You want to come up to the microphone, please, so everybody can hear? I've enjoyed serving with you, by the way, too, on this committee. That one's fine. They're both on, I believe, aren't they? Yep. If you'd state your name.
Thanks for having me on the committee. It's been a really great experience, and we've got a number of meetings to go, I know. But
yeah. Could you give us your name?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, please.
Bill Bradbury, 2614 Castles Gate Drive, Sioux City. And I want to compliment the council for, I think, putting together a really good team. I'm pretty impressed with the design team that you've got in place. And I've done some research of my own on the internet. I like to mess around on the internet, and I think from what I can tell, they've just got tremendous experience, and they've got a lot of confidence that the committee really doesn't need to be involved in design details, and I think it'll go fine. But there's a few things to think about here. I worked for a design build contractor, Young Love Construction, for almost 40 years, and I was involved in hiring Nicole's husband, who's now president of the company. And he's a great person. Anyway, a lot of our work was design build, as Bob was saying, where we developed conceptual plans, we designed it, and we figured a guaranteed maximum price on many of these projects and build it. And, I had projects up to, it started at $55 million out in California, and that was a guaranteed maximum price. It was like about my 14th project with this owner. So there's a lot of trust that was developed over time. And I know that the contractor we need to be looking for, and this is probably one of the most important decisions that you're going to make, is the contracting method and the contractor that's selected. You got to find somebody with integrity, experience. Integrity is a big deal, and trust, okay? And I have to say that I worked for a company that I thought was just great. You're never, ever asked to do anything that was not right. In fact, I remember a job in North Dakota. We paid workman's comp to the state up there, and it was based upon an estimate or whatever we estimated And a year after the job was done, it was a GMP. The state sent us a $10,000 refund because we overpaid it. The owner would have never known about it, but we knew about it. So we sent him a check. That was our part of the savings. You know, you just have to do what's right. But anyway, some differences between a design, bid, build, and the CMAR method. A CMAR, construction manager, is really going to be a contractor. It's not a pure construction manager. It's a contractor. And that contractor may self-perform a lot of the work. And that's something you'd be interested in knowing in selecting a contractor. And you get to select the construction manager at risk. That's really the contractor that's got tremendous, probably historical records to put together probably better estimates than the engineers have. Sorry, but that's probably the case. You know, we've got very, very detailed estimating data from historical records so they can put together better estimates. So you get them on board early and you get the value engineering out of them. And that's great. And the CMAR method is really an open accounting method, Bob. You'd like that. It's open book. You know,
I understand how it works. I get that.
You understand that. So you get all the detailed cost reports, you know, with the billings, okay? And I have to tell you, too, that this is a tough project because it's in an existing plant. It's really tough. You know, I was involved in construction, like I said, for 39 plus years. It's a lot easier to build a greenfield project. It's tough. Okay, guess what? Contractors are going to have a contingency, okay? With the design, bid, build, they've got a contingency, and in CMAR, it's an identified contingency, okay? It's identified up front, and you know what it is. In design, bid, build, you're not going to know the contractor's contingency. It's not identified, and he's not going to tell you. And if it doesn't develop, guess what? He's made his profit, and his profit is boosted up by the value of the contingency. You don't get any part of that. That was his contingency. So, you know, and in a CMAR method, the contingencies there to maybe cover a few things that might come up through the project, and there's going to be less change orders, you know, under the CMAR method. And it's a lot more harmonious method to construct a project, more collaboration on scheduling and work in that existing plant. There's going to be a lot of coordination with the plant manager, Vicki Baker, or whoever's, or Tom. It's going to be tremendous, the coordination required. And anyway, those are the important things, I think. And the CMAR method, too, you get the contractor on board early, and there's a lot of equipment on this project that's got very long lead times. You know, 2 years on lead times. I know electrical transformers from where I used to work, you're out 2 years on delivery. So in a lot of these projects, it's like you got to order the transformer before you really know when. You better order a big enough one, you know. You're going to have to make an educated guess at the size. So, you know, there's a lot of advantages to going the CMAR way. I think the important thing, hopefully you could work with somebody that's already done CMAR work, although I don't know if that's a question you can ask in the selection process or not, or you can find it out. But I've got a whole long list of stuff for Tom to consider in selection criteria. So, being a contractor, because I had to hire subcontractors in parts of the country, you know, this job out in California is out north of Bakersfield. We didn't know anybody there. We didn't know any of the contractors. So, you know, over time, you develop the experience to be able to, you know, figure it out. You find a couple good ones, and they lead you to the better, the good ones, others. And the CMAR method, too, they probably have a contractor probably has preferred subcontractors that they might want to bring on board, you know, that have a proven track record with them, and they know how to communicate, and there's a benefit to that, you know, because they've got experience working together. So anyway, that's about all I can say for now. I'll come back next week if you want.
There you go.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it.
Thanks,
Bill,
Bill.
very much.
Yeah, it's been fun being on the committee, and so,
I can tell that Billy Hempstead did a great job getting you through engineering schools.
yeah, right. Mutual friend of ours. Really. Thank you.
Okay, well, I guess you're bringing it back next week, right?
Okay.
All right, thank you.
And if you guys approve it next week, we'll form a subcommittee to oversee the RFQ process of the CMAR.
Tom, my only question, maybe slash concern would just be like, obviously, you know, Julie joins Dan and all of you on the design committee, but just getting Matthew up to speed to be able to have that conversation for him to feel confident in making that vote next week. I surely wouldn't want him to feel in the dark and like he can't adequately make an educated decision. So if you could just work through that at some point, I know all of you probably aren't available, but whether it's a Zoom call or any questions or anything else you can do, I think that would maybe be helpful just to reach out.
Sounds good, will do.
Okay, you're gonna get me those wages, right?
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, guys.
Citizens, any citizen want to be heard? You better.
Come on,
now,
Dolph.
Dolph, we got things going here. We got-
My name's Dolph Eibner. I live at 3400 Talbot Road. I'm working on the project on Floyd Boulevard. I'd like to address, there's been some changes in kind of the permitting and on kind of the series of events on as they go through, whether how you get your grading permit and all of these things. And from what I understand is, I've been running into this, it sounded like two really big dogs got in a fight, and you're supposed to leave your hands and feet out when that happens and let them finish. And so those two big dogs got in a fight, and it seems like now I got bit. And the reason is I'm stuck in a quandary, a catch-22. I can't get a grading permit without a foundation permit. But I want to know what my soil, my compaction tests are before I turn the engineer loose to design the system, because I could have an 8-foot wide footing or a 2-foot wide footing, and you don't know that until you get your compaction test. And you can't get that with a soil boring. That'll give you soil type. It will not give you your compaction, where you're at. And so I moved ahead and I moved the dirt on my site, and Monday morning, this morning, I had certified testing out there. They gave me my soil compaction. I got 100%. It's awesome. The engineer now knows what he has to have so that he can design my building. And that was the way I had always done it in the past, and all of a sudden, now that's not the rule. And I want to go back to the old rule. And I know that some people used it to their advantage or did some shenanigans, but those fellas that did the shenanigans, they do a lot of shenanigans, and we all know that.
Don't state any names, save
I'm not
yourself the lawsuit.
Yeah, I just.
Gordon, who's the, because I thought you kind of had this worked out, but what did we change?
Gordon Fair, city engineer. In the past, we've allowed grading to start once they've submitted their building plans, or
DRC, right?
Sometimes with the DRC, it depends on the size of the project. We would let them start their grading, provided they provide us with a grading plan. And once it was approved, since the argument last year with Bertrand and Lieber, we've following the rules now that are explicit in our code that says you can't do that until those building plans are approved. So there's to be no grading until the project is actually, it's either got a foundation, approved foundation plan or approved project.
Okay, well, we'll have to try to figure that out.
We are working on this now with a new grading ordinance.
Okay.
Stephen and we've already done it. Now we just haven't, we're actually in the process now of contacting the contractors, developers about the new grading ordinance. And then we'll be bringing it to council for approval.
But you think you have it worked out?
Yeah. May I?
Yeah.
Go ahead. Stephen Bastalka, City Legal. It should be able to grade for grade's sake. As our code is currently written, it's not, but it should be. There's no reason why you shouldn't be able to change the topography on your site for drainage or anything, right? I've gone through about 12 different drafts of this code, just internally with Gordon and other folks at the city. It hasn't been quite ready for prime time yet, even despite all that, which is why we haven't brought it up yet. But suffice it to say, a change is in the works.
Okay. And are you going to have sidewalks in front of that?
I was going to make them about this wide.
The reason I'm asking is when you put yours in, there's another one because that sidewalk up, it stops and that is a dangerous sidewalk.
And that one needs a sidewalk the whole way because I have people.
That's what I just said.
Get
That's
in the street
going
and then
north.
there's 2 lanes.
Yeah, going north is another area that needs to be filled in. I see people.
But it's tough on that top of that hill because that house is right there. I don't know. You're going to have a dandy at the top.
Well, I know that, but we got to get it at least, yes. Anyway, we'll work, okay. That's just another fill-in that needs to be done. There's too many people walking out there without
100%,
sidewalks, so.
100%.
All right, sounds like we're working on it.
I have one other thing that I want to comment. I know, I think I'm in the Floyd River District. I'm in the Floyd River TIF District. And I know you guys aren't big on giving any money TIF for small retail like that. But my quick pitch is, while I'm standing here, is I had to do a bunch of infrastructure work to get it to the water retention right. And it wasn't just for me, it was for everyone in the neighborhood to get it to drain into my detention pond, and we gotta readjust the detention pond. And that is gonna be my ask for my TIF money. It's just the infrastructure I had to do.
Talk to that guy back there in a nice white shirt.
But you guys are the ones that vote on it. So I just wanted it, you're the final decision. So
All right.
I wanted to pitch it.
Gotcha.
And thank you, everyone. It's not a very thankful job, especially when you're going to spend $270 million of my dollars for a sewer. It's the first I heard of that.
But you need to read the paper.
Yeah.
I guess it doesn't come off that often anymore.
I get it every time.
All right, buddy.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
And no one else to be heard? This is going to be quick. Well, I'm sure you'll take everybody else's time. Go ahead.
Exactly. Let me think about all the things to go into. No, I don't think that I have a lot. I was trying to think, obviously we have St. Patty's coming up and there's going to be the parade. But also I was trying to think of the dates for NAI basketball, and I'm drawing a blank.
Can't start for another, because they play Saturday, then they got to have the regional championship before they come here, so it's 2 weeks from tomorrow.
That's what I thought. I thought we were still a while.
Yeah, 2 weeks from tomorrow.
The only thing that I did want to comment on was just extending appreciation for really a number of people, and I don't want to leave a lot of people out, but Christy Vermeulen and all of the others that were joining the charge. I mean, whether it was Aaron Baumgars and his team at Baumgars, or whether you're talking Nolan at CNOS and their team, they all were doing a big effort to get out and clean up the streets. They coordinated with Iowa DOT today and tomorrow to be able to be in those right-of-ways for the on-ramp, off-ramp areas. And I tell you what, you see litter a lot in our community, and I appreciate anyone that's willing to step up and not only do it themselves, but also bring people along for that mission. And I think that it's been inspiring to see different community partners and community leaders step up in this way to try to make sure that we're as welcoming as we can be, especially with things like NAIA, but also the range of different concerts and youth athletic tournaments that we have coming to our community. So please, and with a windy day like today, I'm sure it was blowing all over. So do your part, clean up your neighborhood, clean up the streets, and thank you for those that are already doing that today and tomorrow. If you do have an interest in forming a team or a group that would like to get together and maybe help in some of these right-of-ways, make sure to reach out. We can put you in touch with the right people to maybe be able to do that tomorrow afternoon. I know there's still a lot of work from noon to 5, so just thank you for that. That's all I have, Mayor.
We still have scheduled a conference board meeting tomorrow at noon?
Tomorrow at noon.
At noon, okay. We have two of us at least coming. I'll be there.
I'll be there.
Okay. Are you planning on?
I'm not, but I could be if we need to.
Check on that because Heidi hasn't received an agenda and I haven't seen one either.
got it.
So it's not
Got it.
posted.
Well,
It's not posted.
they sent it all to us, so if they didn't post it, that's their problem.
Yeah, don't they do the posting?
They do the
They
posting.
sent it to us as well.
A potential gathering. We'll check on it. We'll check on it.
Well, you do that in addition to the posting the notice for the conference board itself? Oh, okay. Well, let us know then, please.
We'll check on it.
That's all I have.
You done?
Yes.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
Moore,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye?
Waters.
Aye.
Want to see if you know.